This is a 22 carbine. This back here is a 22 rifle. Both of these are semi-automatic, and today we're going to be taking a look at the differences between not just the actions that you see here, the Ruger 1022 and the Savage A22, but we're going to be talking about type and when you might want to choose one over the other. The Ruger 1022 is kind of the pattern that everybody sets their little semi-automatic rifles after. This has a short 16¼ inch barrel, whatever is the minimum legal length that you can deal with in your area. It's going to have usually a very lightweight polymer stock. There's wood as well out there. But what a lot of people are trying to do with these carbines is they're trying to split the difference between a youth gun and an adult gun. There are a lot of adults that like to shoot these and a lot of children that like to shoot them. And so in the end, you kind of get this compromise rifle that, okay, this weighs very little, which is quite good for, even for us adults that want to be able to pack these things out into the wilderness so we can do a little hunting or plinking. You can just slap this onto the side of a backpack and it's going to be very easy to carry around. But back here, you're going to get this ambidextrous. This is just the stock that's on everybody's rifles. It's going to have this, kind of hunter-style grip with its laid-back grip. You're going to get a short length of pull overall on most of these because, again, you are trying to kind of flex this for both adults and children. It's going to be a little bit of a long reach for the kids, and it's going to be a bit of a short reach for adults, especially someone that's as tall as I am. This is a very nice rifle. This is my own Ruger 1022 takedown, and I do like this rifle a whole lot. But if we wanted to head in a totally different direction, away from the kind of quick and handy, slap on the pack, break down and toss into a backpack sort of rifle, we need to take a look at this right here. And I have been testing this particular rifle, the Savage A22 Pro Varmint, for a long time now, and I actually need to apologize to Savage because I've had this just a little bit too long, but I have been having just a blast with this. This is a very, very different sort of beast. This little carbine down here weighs about 4 pounds. This guy back here weighs about 7.1 pounds. And for what this rifle is, that is good weight. We're going to talk about that today, and we're going to get into the action itself. We're going to break everything down here, and we're going to talk about configuration options. Grab your yakety snacks because this social regressive video is epic content for an epic rifle. To test the merits of the A22 Pro Varmint, I took this rifle out into the woods and into all kinds of different scenarios. The first thing that I did was I took it out squirrel hunting with a buddy. So I was able to bag a squirrel after a little while of sitting on a log. And so here's the image that you see right here. Unfortunately, I couldn't capture the moment of impact because my camera was pointing downward, but this did actually work quite well. There is such a thing as good weight. Now, I will be honest right up front that this was a heavy rifle to be packing out into the woods like that, and it is bulky. This is a 22-inch barrel that you see back here. So it is long, it's heavy, and even thrown on a sling, it's just a little bit clunky to be kind of ducking under brush. It's certainly a lot easier to take a little carbine like this one into a scenario like that. This A22 Pro Varmint is sitting in a Boyds Pro Varmint laminate stock. This might look like some kind of plastic. What this actually is this is a kind of a painted, it's an enamel coated with all these little kind of nubbins on there for extra texture. But yeah, this is actually a beautiful laminate that you can see right here. This is my Savage Axis 1,000 yard rifle that I built a while back. This is that big project rifle that a lot of you have subscribed about. This stock right here is quite comfortable. It has a wonderful vertical grip going on, and it has a high comb so you get your eye much more easily into a scope. And you can see that the laminate here, this is a hardwood laminate, and this is going to be very rigid, very tough, and this is going to create a much more accurate rifle than you're pretty much ever going to get from some of the plastics. There are some that are decent out there, but for the most part, this is going to be good for what ails you. And one of the things that I need to point out is that in addition to increasing the rigidity, of course, it is going to increase the weight. This is a lot of the reason why this rifle weighs 7.1 pounds. But this is what I call good weight for a couple of different scenarios. Yes, a heavier rifle is going to settle down a lot better into a bag or onto a bipod when it comes time to take that bench or prone shot. But since we are also fixing the balance back here by adding a bunch of weight here at the back, this rifle is also quite stable when it comes time to take an offhand shot. This is one that, okay, yes, it was a little bit tiring to be pointing up into a tree like this, but for target shooters, this is one that is probably going to be a really great starter rifle for you. It's going to have that, that balance that's pitched a little further back. You can balance this one on your fingertips. So if you're looking at a silhouette rifle base, you can probably take this out and do very well in rimfire silhouette. Now I do need to clarify one thing right now. I did not take this rifle as configured out squirrel hunting. No, I didn't have this big scope on top, and no, I didn't have the cheek riser, and I didn't have a bipod. I stripped this down as much as possible. This rifle does come with a rifle base right here. I think this is an EGW that you see sitting right up top here. It's a 0 MOA base. And what I did is I slapped this on top. This is the Simmons Pro Target Rimfire 4X. This is a fixed power scope, and this is an amazing little scope. I created a review on this, so make sure you check out that video down below to kind of figure out what this is all about. What it is extreme lightweight, a very crisp image through here, even out to the edges. You do lose just a little bit of resolution out at the edges, but overall this is a very bright image. It has very good resolution, good color reproduction, and Simmons has really been stepping it up lately. This is an excellent little scope, and I've got it sitting in these low Tasco scope rings right here, and these work out really well. One thing I should point out, do please check out the full review on this scope if you're interested in a good squirrel scope or something that's just really quick and easy for out in the wilderness. But this has just a simple kind of a duplex reticle on the inside, just a crosshair, but it does allow you to deal with your drops by using this knob right up here. The turret cap that you see on top, you can switch these around for 17 HMR and 22 MR. And this one, it has actually your drop value. So right now I'm zeroed at 50, and if I want to be able to take a shot at 75 with kind of your standard ammo, just spin it up and it's ready to go. So that was the configuration for squirrel hunting, and it worked great. I should mention that I used this little scope for the accuracy testing as well. So when we take a look at the paper targets, just know that I was using a fixed 4-power scope from Simmons to shoot these. And now I probably could have tightened up my groups a tiny bit if I had swapped over to one of these bigger, more powerful scopes, but it's actually quite a testament to this little guy. Great little scope. Now let's talk about some of the more hardcore configurations. For those of you that are interested in precision shooting, like silhouette shooting, if you want to get into competition, if you want to, do NRL 22, or if you just want to do some long-range shooting, one of the cool things that I should mention about this is that if you do have kind of a heavier built rifle like this, this is actually a great trainer for long-range shooting. When we were shooting at 350 yards with this, that was every bit as difficult as trying to hit a target at, 700 yards with a good centerfire rifle, because all those wind switches that we were dealing with, they're really going to push around these little rimfire bullets. If you want to get good at wind reading, then I do recommend a 22 at some of the more intermediate distances. It's going to teach you a whole lot. So when we did go out and do some of that shooting at longer distance, this is the configuration that I had, which may look a little bit goofy. This scope, as you can see, is sitting up very high on the rifle. And the biggest reason for that is this right here. This does have just a regular base that comes on the rifle, but I've slapped on this Utg Intermediate Riser right here. This is one that you can put on an AR-15, an AR-10, if you want to be able to add extra compensation to your scope. So this is going to get you an extra 20 MOA. This is built on a slope so that you can extend your distances. And I did actually shoot this rifle as configured at 500 yards to see if I could get on target. The rifle is totally up to it. But out here in eastern Oklahoma right now, the drought is over, very over. You remember the floods from last year. I just can't really get dust impacts when I go out and test this rifle. I can't see where I'm missing. Imagine taking a pebble and tossing it into your lawn. That's the kind of visual indicator that I have of where I'm missing with a lot of my shooting. Now, I was able to make some hits out at 500 yards. I tried on 2 occasions to get out and shoot 500 yards with this rifle to kind of prove its mettle. And I did make one hit as I was kind of messing around trying to get on target out on that first excursion on just this head-sized target that I got from Zombie Headhunters. Make sure you check out their channel because they trick out all kinds of rifles. They make centerfire and rimfire rifles that they shoot at ridiculously long distances out there in the Wyoming desert. And yeah, they regularly hit these things. And there's my one little impact. It doesn't count. I know Zombie Headhunters, they require that I do this within 10 shots, and I totally didn't do that. But coming back the second time, I did hit steel a couple times, but yeah, since I just can't see the misses, we'll say that the rifle is up to the challenge at 500 if you can actually see what you're doing. But yeah, at 350 yards with this, this was perfectly reliable as long as I could read my wind. And right now this is sitting in some Weaver rings right here. I love Weaver rings. They're very inexpensive and also very high quality. But sitting up top, this is an SWFA SS12X. This is a fixed power scope and one of the hidden gems in the industry. For 300 bucks, you get a wonderful image. It's beautiful edge to edge. It has a lot of resolution. It gathers a lot of light despite its 42 millimeter objective. And this is one that normally where you have your zoom ring, this is the Parallax Adjustment. And one of the reasons why I was happy to slap this onto a 22 rifle is that this one can actually focus down to 10 yards. There are a lot of these big, high-powered scopes out there that cannot do that. They can't focus within 10 yards. Maybe the closest you can get is about 25. With some of these, the closest you're going to get might be 50 or 75, like with some of the Bushnells that I've been trying out, some of the tactical scopes. Make sure if you are going to buy a higher powered scope for your rimfire that you do get one that can focus very closely, because I know that in NRL 22 you might have targets that are quite close and quite far away, and those really close ones can be, I don't know, the size of a pea when you're trying to shoot those. But this scope was very good for that and has a reticle that works really well. It has a mil-quad reticle. I'll put an image here so you can see that. Some of the other configuration things that we have going on here, this is a Caldwell bench rest bipod right here. Very inexpensive. I'll put links to everything down below in the description, so if you see anything you like here, you can just purchase it directly from links down in the description. But yeah, this little guy is great, custom painted by me. This one does have quite a bit of flop to it. It can cant very easily. So this is one that if I wanted to be really serious about taking very precise shots, I maybe want to get one that's a little bit, has a wider track and doesn't cant as easily and I can lock it down. That would work a little better for that. Back here, in order to get up into that eyepiece so I could actually see through the scope, this is my custom Kydex cheek riser. If you want to see a tutorial on how to make one of these for your own rifle, I'll put a link around here so you can check that out. But yeah, this is just a piece of Kydex I bought from Amazon, a little bit of foam, a little bit of Velcro, and I have a very smooth, nice cheek riser so I can get up into some strange configurations like this one. If you want to go really hardcore with one of these rifles and make it very precise for especially your competition shooting, I want you to take a close look at this right here. This is a scope that I would highly recommend for silhouette shooting and for some of the NRL 22. This one is about 500 bucks. So you're looking at quite a spread here. This is probably about anywhere between $50 to $70 for this scope right here, $300 for this one on SWFA, and then this is a bit north of 500 bucks generally. Sometimes I think you can get these on sale, but this is actually a brand new rifle scope called the Bushnell Match Pro. They have 2 different models. One of them has illumination. This is that model. And they have one without, so you can get a little bit of a price break there. This is a 6 to 24 power scope, so you're going to be able to get really tight in on whatever tiny targets that you have, or very distant targets. And this has just about every trick in the Bushnell playbook thrown into one scope. This has all kinds of awesomeness from their Elite Tactical lineup. This has the locking turret caps, so you can just pull up on that to be able to turn these, lock it back down so it doesn't float around and you lose your spot, and that's on both elevation and windage. This has side focus, and it actually turns very easily over here. And yes, it does go all the way down to 10 yards. They designed this specifically for NRL 22 shooters. And yeah, I can't think of a scope that would be better. This thing is a beast. This model is the illuminated one. You have two different ones at slightly different price tags. You can save yourself a little cash by going with a non-illuminated, but this one does have the center area of its reticle illuminated. You kind of get the first 5 milliradians lit up inside here with a nice red illumination. You get 6 different levels all the way around. But the two coolest things about this are first going to be the optical quality that you get through here. The lenses have that exo barrier and all their other coatings, and the glass itself is very high quality, so you get an extremely crisp image, extreme resolution, edge to edge. This is a world-class scope right here. And then the reticle on the inside is world-class as well. This is one of those H59 clones. You know that I love the Horus H59 if you've seen my other videos. It's one of those Christmas tree type reticles that has lots of values in there if you want to be able to very quickly just re-aim your scope and be able to take your shot without actually adjusting your turrets. And this is one that has a lot of adjustment range. This is their deploy milliradian reticle. So this one has milliradian turrets, milliradian reticle in the first focal plane. So this will always measure the same no matter what zoom you're at. And this is a scope that I can highly, highly recommend, not just for a really nice rimfire like this one, but of course for centerfire as well. I've been shooting this on 243. Great testament to that scope. But what about the rifle itself actually lends itself to great accuracy? You do get that full length of pull back through the Pro Varmint stock. This is an adult stock. It's set up for us bigger folks. And for me, this feels as natural as breathing. When I was shooting some of these challenges, I just got behind the rifle, started shooting, and I didn't even think about having to contort myself to fit inside here anywhere. It's just a very natural reach to the trigger, wonderfully vertical grip, so my wrist isn't kinked when I'm on the ground or on the bench. And just everything lends itself to this kind of seamless, invisible perfection. You just get behind it and you're ready to shoot. The Savage hardware includes that heavy, fluted, and threaded barrel, so if you want to be able to suppress this or put on a muzzle brake for some reason, you can certainly do that. But you can shoot this quietly, and this weight is also some of that good weight that's going to help it stay settled when you take a shot, and you can just keep looking through the scope and be able to see your impacts. Normally you can do that with a 22 anyway, but this one is just extra stable. So if you want to be able to sling lay it really quickly at a target that's a long way off, you can just pow, 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 and this is going to just sit there and not move at all. The magazine back here is a rotary style magazine, much like the Ruger 1022 mags. This, however, it feels a little bit different. If you're used to your Ruger 1022 mags, you're gonna have to retrain yourself a little bit on this one. You have to kind of push in from the side a little bit and then slide in. And it's gonna be infuriating at first. I know when I first started loading this up, I was just wondering what in the heck was going on. Trying to get past the little loading gates inside there was pretty annoying. But once I figured out the trick to it, this is actually quite easy and quick to load. High quality magazine too. This is one of the things that I really like about this. Some of the magazines that you get on some of the lesser expensive rifles are gonna have just maybe a bent piece of plastic that's eventually gonna break off one day. This is actually a spring-loaded metal clip that is very easy to actuate. It's easy to get the magazine up into the stock, and it's extremely easy to take it out as well. So kids especially are really gonna like that part right there. Moving backward, this is the bolt catch, which is one of the most infuriating things about the Ruger 1022, where you have this little dingus, this little thing hanging down here that you have to mess around with when you're trying to lock your action back. And you just kind of have to get used to that feeling of rocking it into the right position. And yeah, it's kind of a two-handed thing. That's not the way that this one works. This has just a simple little metal push button right here. So if I push this all the way to the back, I just push up on that, and then look, it locks it into place. I didn't have to fiddle around with anything at all. And then when it comes time to take the shot, I don't have to take my rear hand off the back of the stock. All I have to do is just pull back on that, and then it's ready to go. Moving a little further back from that, we have the push button safety. So it's just the kind of cross safety that you get right there, same as with the Ruger 1022. And this is where we deviate from the Ruger in a big, big way, the Savage Accutrigger. You know that these are designed for extreme crispness and a very small over travel. And you can adjust this anywhere from 1.5 pounds to 4 pounds. Right now, this is actually set on its higher end, and I didn't mind at all, just because it is so darn crisp. To keep it safe, you get that little blade down the center. Some people don't like that, some people do. I do. I love the Accutrigger on all of my centerfire and rimfire rifles. And compared to the B22 that we tested last time that had still some creep in that trigger, this one has no creep at all. This trigger is superior, as is the total rifle. We're going to talk about this. Compared to the B22, this is actually quite a bit more accurate. And if you want to check out the full B22 review, it's a great little rifle, but this one just stomps it. This thing is amazing. You Social Regressive subscribers are used to me going overboard, so here we go. Let's take a look at all of the ammo tests at 50 yards. First off, we have the Federal Gold Medal Target Ammo, printing a 1.3 inch group. You can see that these four are actually clustered together much more closely. Then we have this one flyer right here. We have the Federal 40 grain. This is kind of their matched ammo. It's supposed to be that you buy a box of this and you buy a box of this. This one is for your targets. And then this is going to be your 38 grain ammo for hunting. This is a hollow point. And this is kind of generally what I've been getting with all of my rifles. I've been getting groups that are kind of meh. So we're looking at about 1.5 inches at 50 yards. And compared to the 38 grain, which is kind of its matched pair, this has shot well in every rifle that I have tested. If you see this ammo on your shelves, buy it. This is the best ammo that I have found all around, you know, comparing some of the target ammo, some of the cheap stuff, whatever. This one is just plain the best. I have pretty much always shot groups like this in any of the guns that I've tried. Whatever accuracy the rifle has, it's gonna max out here on this. Buy this ammo. Another good one to take a look at in the store, this is one that you used to be able to find at Walmart's if, you know, maybe they're clearing some of the ammo out and you can still find it. But these bulk packs generally do quite well as well. These are all, everything that you see here on the table is going to cycle the action, the A22, and it's going to cycle most of the other semi-automatic actions that I've used. And of course, this one's going to get the job done. This one's more of a kind of a faster velocity right here. So this one cranks out over 1,200 feet per second, 36 grain bullet, hollow point. If you just want a good plinking and hunting ammo, this one is great. The mini mag, as usual, is turning in a pretty decent performance. This is one that I've tested again in a variety of weapons, and this is pretty typical for what I see. It does pretty well, but not anything compared to this 38 that you see back here. So we're looking at 0.8 inches on this guy. The Subsonics, these are ones that I'm really excited about. These are moving out at 1,050 feet per second, so they are just below that threshold. They are just below the supersonic line. And these have shot very well for me in all the guns that I've tested. They have cycled in everything except the Marlin 60. And that might have been a dirty rifle. We're not quite sure. But you can see that this is what I'm used to. You get a very tight cluster. And we did get a flyer here, and I think that this one is attributed to the wind. Usually this one shoots even tighter than that, and I think that we did just get that one pulled by the wind. Another subsonic to take a close look at is the Quiet 22 from CCI. This came in at 1.13 inches, and this one is extremely quiet. This is kind of like shooting an air rifle. 835 feet per second on these. It's quiet with a suppressor, without it. With a suppressor, it kind of sounds like nothing. This is really cool ammo. And then the last one that I tested is Federal Automatch. This one is set up for your semi-autos. And you can see that we got a 0.86 inch group on this one. And this is very typical from what I saw with the other rifles as well. It usually shot pretty well, but nothing extreme. In typical Savage form, they have used a barrel nut to attach the barrel to the assembly back here. So if at some point you want to be able to swap the barrel out to something else, you can. I don't know who all is going to be making those barrels. We'll see as the market develops who's going to be making A22 barrels. But this just threads into place very easily. You use the barrel nut to turn it into place. And this is one of the things that makes the A22 compatible with other calibers. That's why we can have an A17 and an A22 Magnum. We can get some of those other cartridges with very minimal swaps. You just change out the magazine, you change out the barrel, and I don't even know if you have to change out any of the springs back here. You probably do have to change the recoil spring. But it's kind of a unified design that they've applied through their whole lineup, and it works out really well. We're going to take a deep dive into the action today. We're going to pull it apart to see the mess that I have in there, because that is one of the things that I have not mentioned yet. I never cleaned this rifle. I have probably about 1,000 rounds through this over all the testing that I've done, and aside from a couple of hiccups with not being able to grab the rim and pull it out on this last shoot that we did, where we had some failures to extract and we had some failures to fire, this has run like a clock. And the reason why it had those couple of failures, really it must come down to how gummy it is inside there. It is just filthy inside there. And despite that, it did continue to work actually really well, especially with some of the higher power ammo. To demonstrate how easy it is to take this rifle apart, we're going to do it together, me for the first time. I've done a little bit of it. I've done a partial back here, but never taken it fully apart. All right, so first off, I'm going to drop the magazine out. I'm going to put the safety in the middle position so that it slides a bit more easily out of the stock. Make sure that there is nothing in the chamber. Okay, everything looks good. And then to start removing some of these parts, I need to press in this little button right here at the back. And then this tilts up and pulls out. You AK guys will like that. That reveals the takedown screw right back here at the rear. You can see it hanging out just behind the recoil spring and guide. Okay, we'll just get that a little bit loosened up. And now we'll do the front one as well. Make sure you keep a tight grip on the action so it doesn't accidentally fall out. Don't lose the little washer that comes on this. The action lifts straight out, and there it is in all of its simple modular glory. You get just a straightforward hammer, a lot like you would get on, I don't know, an AR-15. It actually kind of looks like one of those. Just a big old block of metal right there that slams against the firing pin that you can see right back down there. It just has one guide rod right here and spring. And then this is the trigger pack. Now this is the part that I have not tried yet. I have not actually removed the bolt. What I need to do is remove this guide rod and spring. There we go. You just push it in. Okay, so there is the guide rod and spring. And then the bolt, I'm gonna have to push down on the hammer just a little bit to get this all the way out. And it allows me to remove the bolt handle. That's the last thing that's kind of holding the bolt in place. And there it is. There's the bolt assembly. One square block of metal that is absolutely filthy. Let's give it a swipe. Actually, that's not too bad. You know, actually one of the nice things about Federal ammo lately is that they have been running very clean. They've been using some better powders. And this goes for Winchester as well. The B22, when I cleaned it up after shooting all kinds of ammo through it in matches and all kinds of other things that I did, it actually cleaned up extremely well. It just took a few passes and then I wasn't getting anything else out of the bore. It is gritty. I'll tell you that I can feel a lot of just grit in there. It kind of feels like sand. It's really nasty. So that is what has been gumming up our action. To remove the trigger housing, we just push on this little pin that's holding it in place. This should slide forward. There it is. That allows this to clear and we can pull it down. And as we pull it back, the whole thing comes out. Ooh, interesting. Okay, this is polymer right here. This trigger housing is all kind of a reinforced plastic, it looks like. And then all the metal bits on the inside. This really is kind of reminiscent of an AR down in there. This is the part that's really kind of worth the whole shebang. I know that Savage makes good stuff overall, great barrels, and a really cool action. But that Accutrigger, love it. I'm not going to take this fully down. Triggers are horrible to try to put back together after you've pulled all these little pins. We're probably just going to spray this out to clean it, but just check out how easy it's going to be to clean inside here. Everything is just kind of open and ready for me to run in a rod to clean this out. And you can see that, yeah, okay, this is pretty grimy. Oh, look at that. That is a mixture of Spartan accuracy oil and whatever crud was floating around inside the gun. And that is actually one of the ways that I've kept this gun running through as many rounds as I have. I highly recommend that you buy this. If not this whole starter kit that includes all the cleaners, at least get that oil. The oil is worth it. As you can see inside the action, all I have to do to clean this up, I'm just going to have to wipe it. I'm not going to have to do any carbon scraping. This is all going to come clean very easily because of this oil that's in there. And one of the greatest things about it is that with suppressed rifles, especially with ARs, a lot of the time I get sprayed in the face with the oil and it burns my eyes. This, for some reason, just stays in the action. It stays where it's supposed to. It doesn't evaporate off when it gets hot. It doesn't gum up when it gets cold. I don't know what kind of magic is in this, but it is awesome, and I use it on everything now. Here's my bolt face. It looks like something that was brought up from the Titanic. That is a mess. It is just, it's grimy, it's crunchy, it has just all kinds of little particulate, I don't know, unburned powder, burned powder. It is a really nasty, sticky mess, and it's no wonder that that match ammo wasn't cycling perfectly well in that last challenge. But this is going to clean up really easily. I started cleaning the rifle, and I have to show you this. This is the guide rod that I pulled out of there with the guide spring. It's actually really clean. There's hardly any gunk in the back of the action at all. It seems like somehow with the way that they have this bolt set up, that it keeps, okay. The only way that you can get any kind of crud past this bolt is in just the very narrow channels. This is going to be riding right inside the raceways here in the action. You know, maybe you can get something past it there. You have the firing pin hole, but look, even the firing pin back here is pretty well blocked up. The crud stays here and it stays in the front, but it doesn't really make it to the back of the action where the trigger is, and that is going to be critical. That's really cool. The oil that you see back here, let's give it a swipe. I've got a clean section of t-shirt, and you can see that it's only slightly discolored. There's none of the grime, none of the grit back in the trigger area, so you're not going to change your trigger pull. It's not going to mess anything up. It's not going to make anything gritty back here. All this is, okay, right up here where the ejector is, this was dirty, but back here, this other stuff really isn't. I don't even really need to clean this up. Maybe just add a little extra oil. I don't know, it looks pretty well lubed. That's actually really cool. Good job, Savage. Here, watch this. Let's swipe the actual trigger face. This is one of those spots where maybe some grit made it. Let's see how bad it is. Okay, just a little bit. I think that's actually mostly kind of a greenish grease. Okay, there's a tiny bit of grit, but actually not much. Okay guys, this is really freaky. All that dirt and grime on here, of course, like I said, that cleaned up really easily. So here's the nice pretty bolt. I was able to just use bits of a t-shirt and a toothbrush to clean out the action, and that was ridiculously easy. I pulled out the firing pin, did all kinds of things, cleaned up just little bits of mess, but guess what? It was all right there in that little bit of the action, and that is it. And I'm talking about the bore too. You know how I was saying that the new ammo from Federal and CCI is running a lot cleaner than it used to? That's it. That's my patch. I ran this bore brush through there and it picked up nothing. So look, no marks on my t-shirt. This is the second patch that I ran through and there's just a slight smudge on there. That's it. Somewhere between this rifle, I guess that Savage has started making smoother bores, and with the new ammo and how clean it is, this is just plain stupid. I've never seen this before. This is cleaning up much more easily than it should. This is a 22, it's supposed to be messy. I suppose I can go buy some Remington. All of the awesomeness that you see going through here, you can get from a Ruger 1022. You can buy a 1022 and swap all kinds of parts. This is that industry standard rifle for which there are all kinds of awesome barrels. You can swap stocks, you can swap triggers, you can swap bolts. You can take every piece off this, throw them all away, rebuild it from other parts, and you're gonna end up with a pretty darn sweet rifle. And actually, if you are interested in that, I have this book that I received from Amilcar Hernandez, and this is a really cool book that shows you not just what is out there in the industry, some of the parts that you can get for the Ruger 1022, and it kind of talks about each of them and how they all work, but it actually shows you how to do all of the work of building up your own Ruger 1022 into whatever you want. Really cool book, and if you're interested in this, let me know in the comments below what kind of rifle you might like to see built, if it's for some kind of match, or if you want to see one that's built for extreme lightweight. There are all kinds of different ways you can go with this, and we might do one here in the project. So leave a comment below if you want to see more about that, and do check out the book. If you want to build a 1022 here in your garage, it's going to be a really cool thing you can do. But yeah, you can swap all the parts on this, but here's the big deal. The A22 has everything squared away to begin with. That's one of the biggest things about this. And it's going to do it at a much lower price tag than you can get if you're swapping parts around on this. As configured with this stock, and with the heavy barrel, threaded barrel, Accutrigger, which really you're going to have a hard time beating, even with the 1022 and all the big aftermarket that they have. This costs somewhere between $415 to $450, somewhere in there, depending on where you buy it from. And you're not going to be able to build a similar 1022 for that price tag. It's just not going to happen. They do have their Ruger Rimfire Precision, which is a different rifle altogether, and they have some others that are kind of tweaked from the factory to be more precise, but really, I do not think that they are going to compare to this. This is a monster, and it's one that, as you can see, it comes just squared away from the factory. If you want to be able to take this straight out of the box, out to the range, out to the competition, this one is just plain ready to go. Be sure to check out the full A22 catalog on Savage's website because they do have a bunch of different options. If you do want to head more in the carbine direction, they have a bunch of different models there that include iron sights, that include thinner and shorter barrels, plastic stocks, all kinds of different stock shapes, so you can get exactly what you're after. If you want kind of a dedicated squirrel hunting gun, they have some laminate models that have more of a laid-back hunter-style stock. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to do with your own rifle, and they're probably going to have one that fits you. Another one to take a close look at is going to be the A22 Precision, and that is going to be their dedicated NRL 22 rifle right there. That's going to be your competition rifle. Shorter barrel, 18 inches instead of the 22 that you see right here, and it's going to have a lighter weight overall with that aluminum chassis. It just kind of depends on what direction you want to head in. As far as outside competition goes, of course you have Rugers and Marlins and Mossbergs and CZs, all kinds of great options. But do take a close look at the A22 lineup because you'd be surprised what you can get just straight out of the box. And as far as that competition goes, make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below to get those instant notifications when these videos come out. It's probably your best chance to be able to find out when we do release new videos. We are going to be testing these takedown rifles in some very interesting challenges very soon. I know that I've teased this for a while. I've had 3 and I've been shooting 3 for a good long time. That's the Marlin Papoose, or the PSS 70, I think they call it. There is the Henry AR7 Survival and the Ruger 1022 Takedown, and all of these are very interesting. You're going to want to see what I found in my testing. And then we also have a dark horse coming in soon. There's one more takedown rifle that recently hit the market, and you're not going to want to miss out on this. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. We're going to compare all of them and see which one might be the survival rifle that you want to keep on you. Maybe stow in a box on your boat, maybe keep in the trunk of your car, toss it into a backpack, keep it as kind of a quiet bug-out rifle. There are a bunch of really cool differences between these rifles, and we're going to check them all out. Thanks to everybody that has made these videos possible. Thanks to Savage for sending this rifle for me to play with. Bushnell, Simmons, SWFA, they've sent me some really cool products to test out, and I'm really happy to tell you guys how they've been functioning around here on the channel. And thank you to patrons of the Destructive Arts that keep videos like these coming. They buy a lot of the bullets and brass and powder that we use for various things. They bought this little Utg Riser and some of the materials that we've used for other tutorials. If anybody else wants to chip in $1 or $2 a month, I'll put a link to Patreon. But for now, thank you to Sportsman's Guide and Stan and Mary at the 338 Lapua Magnum level, Joseph Davis, Peter, and Mr. No Name at the 300 Win Mag level. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These 2 videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, the Social Regressive is on Patreon. So you can become a patron of the Destructive Arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.